We are looking at 1983 Land Rover Series 3, and if I am not mistaken, we bought this in France, I think. A couple of things that are kind of unique to this car is that it is very original. I mean, the only paintwork that I think it has is in that corner where you see a different shade. It was a spot repair down to the tailgate. But other than that, it's all original. And that was also one of the reasons why we really didn't care much about fixing dents, scratches, or anything, because I think the car shows a good history, and being it original paint, it's just so much nicer than if we were trying to get it brand new looking and try to fix all the dents, scratches, and other imperfections. Now, let's look at the undercarriage, because that is the main purpose of this video, and I will tell you what I see, and you can make a conclusion of what this car is. Definitely very original car. I already went under and looked at different things, and I think somebody, I don't want to say it had it as a daily driver, because I think it would be difficult to drive a car like this daily, but at least they tried to keep it on the road, because there were some service records, some of them were recent, and also some repairs were done to make this car roadworthy. Even the tires look pretty decent for a car of this age, and they're not even dry rotted much, or maybe not even at all. So obviously somebody wanted this thing to be a drivable vehicle. Let's go from the rear, and for those of you who know these cars, you know where they rust, and they usually rust at the very end of this frame. And this one does have a little rust hole in there. Here is the mounting of the leaf spring, and that all looks secure, and actually all that frame looks very nice, and I don't think any of that has been repaired. So as you see, this all looks very strong and solid. Here you have the floorboards and the body of the car, and that all looks pretty good too. Here is a body mount that basically the top body of the car rests on, and then we're going into this area here. There's some surface rust, but all that looks pretty decent. That looks like maybe a steering box or something that's a little wet, and then you have some surface stuff that's shown here, but generally speaking, nothing really alarming. So that's this side. And then when you go to the very front of the frame, I don't know, I hope this is all visible. When you go to the very front of that frame, also you see that this is kind of looking all right, and you got the leaf spring mount over here and all that. So now we will move to this other side, and this time we'll go from the front moving back. There is a hole, but I'm not sure if that's a rust hole, because it's very round, so it almost looks like it was made by someone, like a drill hole rather than a rust hole. But there is a hole there, and this side of the leaf spring looks all right, and as you can see, the frame looks decent. So let's just move to the other side, and I'm just kind of gonna follow the frame rails, because I think that's probably the most concerning when it comes to rust. So on this side, you got some surface stuff developing there, and over there, it looks all right. And the same thing here, you got some stuff over here, and then some surface stuff over there. But if you look from this angle, and if you look at the profile of the frame, it does look pretty good. And obviously here are the areas where the car is supported on the lift, but that's pretty solid. Otherwise we wouldn't be able to lift it like that. Here you have another mount for the leaf spring and all that. It's pretty tight here. All that looks good. On this side, from this angle here, you got floorboards that also look pretty good. And now we'll move to the very rear so you can have a full picture of this. The muffler looks like it's maybe a little newer. And then when you move to this area, you can see that there is some rust where I'm pointing in, right here and right there. And then there is also a small hole at the very end behind the mount. As far as this area here, it's got surface, but nothing is penetrating, I don't think. This all feels pretty solid. So the last thing I want to show you is basically the mount on this side, and that looks intact, although there is a hole. I don't know if you can see it. It's right behind, right there. There's a small opening there, small little cavity. But over here, as far as floorboards, this all looks good. I hope this is enough. Another thing that I want to point out is, as far as leakage from the engine and transmission area, there are some very small leaks, and the whole area looks pretty wet, but that's because we never cleaned it. We don't really do that. But this car, it sits in a showroom, and I know it's been sitting in one spot for quite some time. And if you look at the spots that are under the car, you'll be surprised how minor the leaks are and how small amount of fluids actually came out of the either the engine or the gearbox or whatever else holds fluids. It doesn't really have a lot of leaks, which is a nice surprise, because we've had a lot of Defenders which are much newer than this one, and we've seen a lot of stuff leaking, especially oil from these Defenders. But this engine actually doesn't have anything major, and whatever sippage you see, it's not very major. And yes, there is oil in it. Some people would say all the diesel, if it doesn't leak, that means there is no oil in it. There is oil in this engine. So overall, I'm not going to comment or be opinionated as far as is this great looking car or not. I hope I showed enough for you to make that assessment. But doing this for a long time and seeing a lot of cars of that nature, I think this car looks okay. Call us with any questions. Thank you.